All right, and welcome to Not Suitable for Adults. It's a podcast, and on the podcast, we're going to talk about the kids' shows and the movies, and we're going to tell you if we like them.
Yes.
Oh boy. And I'm Rich.
I'm Natalie.
And I'm going to do a couple of things that we normally do at the end of the show really quick up front. I just want to remind you that we would love it if you would subscribe to our show if you're not already. And also, if you are subscribed on a service that lets you leave us a rating or review, we would love to see you do that for us, because not only does that help us get better, but also it helps us know that there's lovely new people out there just enjoying what we're doing.
Yes.
And of course, as always, if you have any suggestions and anything like that, you can email us notforadultscast@gmail.com. So that's some of the stuff we normally do at the end. I wanted to do it up front because we realized, you know, that's something that you might want to remember at the beginning. So we're going to start today with a little bit of something Natalie has prepared for us.
A little bit of it.
Just pretty much everything you have prepared for today. We'd love to hear it.
Okay. And it is just a little bit of something. I wanted to talk today about one, in my opinion, one of the best Pixar films. And it will rip your heart out, shred it up in front of you, and stomp on it, and then try to put your heart right back in your chest. It's so good.
And much like what we just did, it takes care of a lot of that business right on the front end.
Yes. I mean, it's good through the whole thing, obviously, but the first 11 minutes of Up, you guys know what I'm talking about. Those first 11 minutes are heart-wrenching. What I love about those first 11 minutes is our main character, Mr. Fredricksen. What is his first name? Because the whole time, the little boy just calls him Mr. Fredricksen the whole time. What is his first name? Ellie and Carl. Okay. Carl doesn't say a word. He's a kid.
Yeah.
He doesn't say anything for that first 11 minutes. He meets this little girl, Ellie, and she talks constantly for that first 11 minutes. And then it's just a montage of them growing up together and falling in love and getting married and trying to have a baby and can't have a baby and figuring that out and trying to save up for this dream, which is to take their house and put it at the top of Angel Falls and just live in Venezuela and just live there with their house on top of Angel Falls. That's Ellie's dream. And she has this book that says things I'm going to do. The book is called My Adventure Book, and inside it's things I'm going to do. And they get old. They have to use the money they save up for, hey, it's real life. Their car breaks down. They have an injury. A branch falls through their roof. They have to make repairs. Like, it always gets put back, and they get older, and she passes away, and Carl is there in his house by himself, and that's where the movie truly begins.
Says, let's have a movie now.
Yes. Carl is there by himself, and he walks out onto his front porch from his lovely home, and you realize he is in a construction zone. He is in the middle of people trying to put skyscrapers and condos and all sorts of things around him, but he's the only holdout because this house is where his Ellie is. Mm-hmm. One thing leads to another where he's basically being forced out, and he's going to be forced to go into it's like the Shady Oaks retirement home or something like that. And that is when he plans his escape. Right before he does that, though, a knock comes on his door, and little Russell shows up. Who is one of the best characters, in my opinion. Sure. Russell is an Boy Scout, Eagle Scout. He's one of those, he's like a woodchuck or chipmunk.
It's a Boy Scout analog, something else.
Yeah.
He's a Boy Scout.
So, he shows up, and the only badge that he needs to get to advance to his next level is assisting a senior citizen, or helping the elderly or something like that. And I'm trying to really quickly look to see what the name of his thing. So he needs to get assisting the elderly. But he's a wilderness explorer.
That's right.
Yes, that's what it is. And he needs to get his that last badge. So all of it goes down where they're having to force him out, and he's going to be taken to the retirement home. And he's a grumpy old man. Doesn't talk much. He's not into it. The only thing he ever loved was Ellie, and now that she's gone, there's no point to being nice to anyone, really. So he decides to do what they have been wanting to do all along. And I said it was Angel Falls, but they say it's Paradise Falls. I believe it is modeled after. Is there an actual Paradise Falls?
I'm not sure.
I thought for some reason they were modeling it after Angel Falls in Venezuela, but they're saying Paradise Falls in South America is where they wanted to go. So he inflates many, many helium balloons, releases them, and those balloons tear the house off of the foundation and fly his house away. I'm not sure what his complete plan was, but he's going to try to get his house to South America
using helium balloons.
Using helium balloons. Okay. If Carl's house was approximately 1,600 square feet, and the average house weighs blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, lots and lots of pounds.
Lots of numbers. It would take approximately, if you're using helium balloons, it would take, I'm trying to make sure I'm reading my number right. This can't be right.
Just, what is it?
Hold on just a second. I've had a couple of different answers to this. So, between 100,000 and 23.5 million.
Somewhere in there.
Based on what types of balloons you're using.
Okay.
Because if you're using those big old helium ones, it's going to take less. If you're using party-sized balloons, it's going to take more. Also, not all of those are going to rip a house off of its foundations.
Yeah, I feel like that's the big thing, is like, it's as big of a ask as it is to float a house away, like it also has to rip the house out of its foundation.
Yes. And I read that it would take like a Category 3 hurricane type force to actually rip a house off of its foundation. But there were animated 20,622 balloons.
So basically not enough.
Yes. But imagine that just for a second. They animated 20,622 balloons when it first lifts off. That's only enough, really, to lift about 185 pounds. But it's amazing to me that they animated those many balloons. I mean, that feels like a lot of work.
You know what's interesting? I was just thinking, as you were as you were finding the balloon number.
Yes, there's so many different variables. So it's a lot of balloons.
So what I was thinking about is Pixar movies. I feel like Pixar movies, there's a lot of fantastic stuff that happens in Pixar movies.
Sure.
But really each movie just asks you to accept one big preposterous thing, right?
Right.
Like Toy Story. Toys are sentient.
Talk.
Like and I think this is that. It's just like, listen, this is going to pretty much be the real world, except this old man can blow up this many balloons and take his house to Venezuela.
In a night.
Yeah.
In literally one night.
Right.
The Up director, Pete Docter, told a magazine that Pixar technicians estimated 23.5 million party balloons to lift an 1,800 square foot house like Carl's. It's unclear exactly what size balloon they were using to make their calculations, but that's what that's the official Pixar technician view.
And also, so then what I like about that too is that at some point in the development of this movie, a producer or someone came to someone in the Pixar office, a place that animates movies, and said, probably to an intern at first. I mean, I'm sure it sounds like there was a team, but like, hey, we need to figure out how many balloons it would take to lift a house. Get on that. Yeah. And it's like, that's not my job. What? That's not what I do.
Oh, well, like I said, they animated 20,622 balloons for the liftoff. But most of the other floating scenes just have about 10,300 balloons. They did not animate as many. One of the other, you said one of the, like Pixar has you...
oh, yeah, you have to believe one thing.
You have to believe one thing. He blew up all of those balloons in one night. They do lift a house, but also... when the people come from the retirement home to pick him up, it's like that's when he decided to let the balloons loose.
Yeah, as if the force of the balloons wasn't always acting on the house.
Right. And it's like he had a giant tarp in the back of his house holding all the balloons because that kind of falls away and the balloons pop up and rip the house up. The thing is that would have done that already.
Yeah. So imagine this.
Okay.
We're gonna make this work.
Science time.
Pixar, don't worry, we fixed this for you. So maybe the force of the balloons, he blew them all up, and it was enough to float his house away, but it wasn't enough to rip it out of the foundation.
So he had
to do was release them to give that first initial jerk to get it off the ground, and then it was enough balloons. And, of course, all the string and twine that was involved in that didn't break.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So...
although, I guess that makes sense, actually, because there's a lot of balloons. Anyway, go ahead.
We all know Up. At least I think most of us do.
I hope so.
If you don't know Up, stop.
Yeah,
stop not knowing.
Go watch Up.
Go watch Up. I'm not going to go into every little thing like I do in deep dives. I just mainly wanted to talk about some of the things that popped up in my research that I really loved.
Okay.
This was the first Pixar film in 3D.
Cool.
And it was the very first animated film as well as the first 3D film. So both things at the same time, to ever open the Cannes Film Festival.
The Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah.
Cannes.
Cannes Film Festival?
Yeah, it's French, so it's pronounced Cannes.
Yes, it can. Cannes with the S at the end? Do they not do the S either?
Yeah, it's
there's
because
it's
French.
There's several letters in there then that are silent.
Yeah.
The Cannes Film Festival. When the film was over, the festival audience just remained completely silent. Like they were just in awe of the movie. And one of the executive producers said that it was actually actress Tilda Swinton who broke the silence applauding.
Okay. Sure.
And leading everyone else into a standing ovation, which I love. Tilda Swinton is...
She's great.
She's rad. She's awesome. The voice for young Ellie is the director, Pete Docter, his daughter, Ellie.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes. And also, he provided most of Kevin's vocalizations.
Gotcha.
Which, again, Kevin, one of the best Pixar characters. Oh no, hold on. I'm thinking...
No, you're thinking of...
No.
I thought it was Doug.
Doug is... Wait, who's Kevin? Oh, I'm so sorry. Kevin is the big bird.
Yeah.
He names the big bird Kevin.
Right.
Doug is who I was saying is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
The dog. He's amazing. Also, as they're talking, Carl and Russell together, Carl is asking Russell some questions like, why has your dad never helped you put up a tent before? And it kind of comes out in an indirect way, because Russell says something like, Phyllis isn't my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And like how his dad isn't around a lot and stuff like that. This is the first time in a Disney full-length animated feature where divorce is hinted at as being a reason for a character having a single parent instead of somebody being widowed or widowered. So that's the first time that is ever really addressed. It is quite indirect, but it's a moment where you see Carl realize that this boy doesn't have a dad very much in his life.
Yeah.
So I wanted to mainly talk about, I know I'm just now getting to the main part. I wanted to mainly talk about the bad guy.
Uh-huh.
In our little discussion of Ump. His name is Charles Muntz, and he is voiced by the Christopher Plummer.
The one and only.
At the very beginning of the movie, you see very young little boy Carl going and seeing a film about Charles Muntz. He seems to look about middle-aged, maybe a little less than middle-aged, but he has discovered this rare bird, brings it back. It is debunked. And he's like, no, it's real. I'm going back to South America. I'm going to find this bird. And you're all going to be proven wrong.
Right.
So that's his thing. We get to South America with Carl and Russell, and we find this guy is still there. This is my first question. He looks to be about the same age as Carl. They are both very elderly gentlemen, when in actuality, he should be much older.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. He should be like almost 100.
And he lives in a hot air balloon with a bunch of dogs. I'm pretty sure he's fallen over, broken a hip, and... by this time. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way that this man lived this long by himself with a bunch of dogs, because he had to realistically be in like over 100.
For sure.
Also, he's obsessed with this bird that Russell finds and names Kevin. He knows it's there, and he's trying to capture it and take it with him. And this is where the conflict of the movie comes in, because Russell is trying to protect Kevin, and Kevin is actually a girl trying to get back to her babies.
Right.
And this guy is trying to capture Kevin to prove himself. So that's where the conflict comes in. And my question is, why didn't he knew that the bird was there. Why didn't he just call up like a biologist or something and say, look, there's the bird? And the biologist will go like, Oh yeah, I'll totally vouch for you, for sure. Let's take some video. Yeah. Let's take some pictures. Instead, he has to go like capture it and like take it away from its home to prove that it was there. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. Was it initially, it was that he just took pictures, right? And that's what he
brought back a skeleton.
Oh, okay.
And when they did some sort of testing on the skeleton, it came back that it wasn't what he said it was.
So yeah, like even without a biologist, like he could have just taken pictures.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, if they think he's untrustworthy, everybody thought he was dead.
Right.
He flew away on his balloon to find this giant bird. Everybody thought he died. But he's just looking for this bird that actually lives very close to him.
And has for years.
And has for hundreds of years, because he has to be 1 million years old. And for some reason, he hasn't been vouched for on this. And he has to approach it so hostile.
Yeah.
Anyway, those were kind of, that I'm really going back and forth. I'm not as organized this time around.
But we're doing some up plot holes, kind of,
yes,
on this one.
I feel like everybody by this time knows Up and knows,
and we all love it.
And we all love it.
We're not trying to hurt your feelings, Up.
No. It's one of my very favorites. It is such a beautiful story. What I love about it is it's a mutual respect that you gain between generations.
Yeah.
You have to listen to each other, even though you may be older and wiser. This younger person may know more about something than you do. Or vice versa. You may be old and crotchety, but I have to listen to your wisdom, and they help each other get through this. And then he ends up pinning his little badge to him in the end because his dad isn't there. And it's very sweet. And I'm like, Russell, where was your mom this whole time? Like, here on a flying house, you've been accidentally kidnapped, and Mom doesn't know where he is. He's gone to South America for days. And then they just both show up at the little pinning ceremony and then sit outside on the curb eating ice cream.
I would be interested to know how long it took them to fly to South America. Because not quick, not the few hours it would take to fly.
Well, if we're going by
like in an airplane,
the story, if we're going by the storyline, they're flying. A storm comes. He ties all of his trinkets down so that he falls asleep. He wakes up. They're in South America.
Yeah. Like, I feel like it would take, I'm just going to say 6 hours. Let's say it's 6 hours on an airplane.
And airplanes go really fast.
They go super fast, y'all.
I don't know if you've been on one or not, but they go
slow,
really fast.
They go fast. And his balloon house is not going fast.
No, not at all.
So anyway.
Okay, so Up. We love it. It's one of our very most favorites.
Are you ready for a fun activity?
Oh, you have a fun activity today?
I'm doing the activity today.
So excited.
Which is to say, I found the BuzzFeed quiz we're doing today. This one is, as I mentioned, it's on BuzzFeed.
What should we call these? BuzzFeed breaks.
Sure. But Buzz...
BBs.
Yeah. We'll workshop it. We'll workshop it.
The Bieber.
Well, maybe not. This one says, this personality test will reveal which children's show character you're most like.
Oh, dear. You didn't tell me to take it.
I know. I'm going to have you take it live like you do for me sometimes.
Oh, no.
They are visual clues, however, so I'm going to describe them to you.
Oh, no. Okay.
pick a place to go on a walk. One of them is a playground. One of them is like a modern city. One of them is a jungle. One of them is a forest.
This can't be fun for people to listen to.
Yeah, they can join in on the visual, on the
play along at home,
on the on the mental imagery.
Okay, so forest.
Forest. Choose something to eat. There's empanadas. There's a little piece of like chocolate cake. There is what looks like sort of sashimi style tuna, and there is like a strawberry summer salad.
Sashimi.
Choose a pet. It's a little yellow bird. It's a monkey. It's a pig. It's a squirrel.
Oh my goodness, those are all the worst. Oh, I would never pick a monkey. Monkeys are terrible. They're very mean.
It's a little one, though. I should say it's like Marcel from Friends.
You guys don't know this because you don't know me at all. But my grandfather had a pet monkey when he was a kid. And he still has scars on his hand from that monkey being very mean to him.
So bird, pig, squirrel.
Bird.
Interesting.
You thought I was going to pick pig.
I did. What do you enjoy doing on the weekend? There's a person standing on top of a mountain. There's weights. There is people in a club. And there's people at a concert.
Oh, man. Mountain.
Interesting.
What did you think I was going to do? Club?
What's your dream job?
Oh, dear.
There's a gavel, which I guess implies a judge or a lawyer. Here's a chef. He's sprinkling some seasoning on some food.
Okay.
World traveler, sort of photographer-looking person, or a band.
Photographer. World traveler, photographer.
Which scene is the most relaxing? This is the hardest one because, like, it's very much about looking at it, but I'm just going to describe it to you.
This is the worst.
There's a path, like, along a river.
Okay.
It's another forest scene sort of looking up into the sky at the sun coming through the trees.
Okay.
There's like a little quaint village, and there is like a out in the middle of the country sort of crop rows kind of deal.
I'm going to say little village. You said relaxing?
Yeah. I already clicked it.
Okay.
You're Elmo.
What?
You're creative, popular, and loved by many. You're always in a cheerful mood, and you look positively at all things.
Except for this game. No, okay.
You're Elmo. I think that's a great one to get to be. Much better than what I got.
Oh, no. What did you get?
Peppa Pig.
You're the most annoying little girl in the world.
It says, what it says is, you love to have fun. There's nothing you enjoy more than being around your friends and family.
And jumping in muddy puddles.
Jumping in muddy puddles. To be fair, everyone loves jumping in muddy puddles, as the announcer on Peppa Pig would say.
Yes. And then they all fall over and laugh. You hate muddy puddles.
I wouldn't mind it.
You are not a messy, go outside, do something messy person.
Okay.
I am. You aren't.
I would. I just don't
But I'm also Elmo.
Yeah. To be fair.
To be fair, I'm more of an Elmo type.
Yeah.
So I kind of grab life and just run with it.
Yeah, not like Peppa Pig.
No.
So that was our buzz that we got our buzz on.
Ooh, the buzz.
Yeah.
That's the buzz.
All right.
What's the buzz?
It's time for us to take a little break in Promoville.
It's a beautiful day in Promoville, a beautiful day for Promo. Would you please, could you please listen to this?
And we're back. I am going to talk about two things.
It's going to take forever.
Buckle up.
Oh, dear. Is it going to be as captivating as telling us what all the ratings mean?
It might be even more captivating than that.
So excited.
I love that you're holding that against me from a previous show.
What's up?
You had a bad dream. Just now?
You've been awake.
Okay, it's just two quick things. So, first, I wanted to talk about a movie that I caught on Netflix that I thought was interesting. It was one of those that just popped up as like trending. It might be relatively new, but it's not like a big blockbuster or anything, so I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it. It's called Fearless, and the way it's spelled is very fun and gamery.
Oh, dear.
Because the A's and ampersand, and then the S's are two uppercase S's instead of lowercase.
Oh, wild.
And
sorry,
so
I just sniffed really loudly in the mic.
no, it was great. Everyone loved it.
Sorry, everyone.
So Fearless is about this young man. We meet him at the beginning, and he's playing a video game. And his gamer handle is Fearless, so that's who that is.
Okay.
And so he's playing this video game, and we learn through some exposition with his friends who are like watching him play live, like you can do now, like the kids do. They're all sort of talking while he's playing the game, and we find out that he's the best in the world at this game. He's like rated number 1 of all the players of this game.
He's number 1.
Yeah. So they're watching him play, and then the main character of the game is called Captain Lightspeed, which sounds a lot like Buzz Lightyear.
That's what I was thinking.
But he doesn't look like Buzz Lightyear, so don't worry.
I wish people... So, I mean, I would never, ever work in this field because I have no qualifications. But I feel like somebody out there is just like, hey, quick, we need a name. We need a name for this guy. That is Lightspeed. Captain Lightspeed.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Jeremy, good job.
So he's playing as Captain Lightspeed, and he's very good at the video game. And he's like, all right, we're coming up to the end. There's only a couple levels left. And they're in the game, like, there starts to be this transformation. And he's like, oh, yeah, we're about to get some cool weapon upgrade. And then in the game, Captain Lightspeed has a 3-piece baby Bjorn. And on him are 3 infant children. I'm just going to let that sink in for a second. The video game character has 3 babies with him now in the game.
When you say, so you mean like in a wrap?
They're
or like in a carrier?
On a carrier. He's got 2 on his back and 1 on his front. And they are his children. And they have superpowers, but they don't know really how to use them yet because guess what? They're babies.
This is in the video game?
Inside the video game.
Okay.
Just stick with me.
Okay.
So there's this moment where the main big bad boss comes right when right after the babies show up. And
I'm sorry, is Fearless playing as Captain Lightspeed?
Correct.
Okay. But we have not seen the babies up until this point.
Right. He's playing the video game. The babies just appear as if they are an upgrade that he received in the video game.
Like an armor. Like, don't kill me, I'm a dad.
But it's not like that at all, because he's like, now we as a family, like there's dialogue.
Oh, okay.
Now we as a family are going to defeat
like,
you.
Instead of Mr. Incredible, now you've got the whole Incredible family.
Kind of, but
okay.
if it was Mr. Incredible and 3 babies.
Yeah.
So he defeats this monster, the big bad is there, and they have this exchange where the main bad guy doesn't have any superpowers, and Captain Lightspeed's like, that's why you'll never win. You don't have superpowers. And the bad guy's like, we shall see, and disappears. And so, for whatever reason, he knows, now this is back to Fearless. Fearless knows, he has a real name. I can't remember what it is. He knows, and I'm not going to do a full detail on this whole thing. I just have to get to the big break, the big moment where the movie really, you know what it's about. And then the rest of it from there is just hijinks. So Fearless is like, okay, we're coming up on the last one. Let's see if I can dump these babies. He's like, because I don't want the babies.
So it's like a piece of armor that he doesn't want on.
Right. And so he figures out a way to do it. And what it is that when he got the babies, he unlocked this thing called daycare. And so in the game, Captain Lightspeed goes to this daycare place and drops off his babies. And he explains that they have these like palladium pacifiers that'll keep them from using their powers while he's there. And then he leaves to go try and find the big bad guy for the final round. Shortly after he leaves, the big bad guy shows up at the daycare and kidnaps the children. And we see this sort of thing. He has like this one minion, and he's got a bunch of drones that are in his ship and stuff. He's got this one minion with him, and he's sort of slapsticky. And so they steal the babies. They get away, but because the babies are like cartoon babies, they figure out how to like escape on their own. They don't talk to each other or anything. They're still babies, but they figure out how to escape the big bad guy. They get in and this is where
because that would be ridiculous that they talk to each other because they're babies.
Yeah. So here's the deal. They figure out how to get into an escape pod and they escape. And so now we back out to Fearless. Fearless is playing a game.
Is this the first time Fearless has played this game?
Yeah. So he's the first person. He's gotten the farthest in this game of anyone in the whole world. Okay.
So this is the first time ever that anybody has seen this part of the game.
Correct.
Okay.
So he's like, what is going on? So the babies escape, and it backs out to Fearless playing the game, and it says, "Are you ready?" It says something like, "Are you ready for the consequences?"
Ready Player One.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, here we go. I just have to accept, and then the final round will start.
Oh, no.
And so he clicks accept,
and the
babies go through a wormhole.
And shoot out.
And then he like gets distracted by someone at the door, and while that happens, the escape pod lands at his house, and the babies are there in real life. Again, I'm just going to let that sink in.
This seems very Ready Player One-ish.
So...
this makes me feel like it's not at all like, but as far as the video game aspect and the real world aspect, this feels Ready Player One like.
So from here on out, the movie is Fearless has these 3 super babies.
1 guy and 3 babies.
And also this girl who he's supposed to be doing a science project with, who doesn't like him because he's like a video game playing slacker kid.
Classic.
She's there. That's who's at the door and distracts him. She's like, I'm here to finish the science project we're supposed to do. And he's like, oh yeah, sorry, I forgot. Because he is that kid. And then from there on, it's the boy and the girl and the 3 babies. And the government figures out that, like, sees this craft come in, and the big bad guy, who is also real, is able to track them and come to Earth.
Right.
And from then on, it's very it's weird. It's not exactly the same storyline, but it reminded me so much of Monsters vs. Aliens.
Okay.
Because it was like the good guys had to kind of figure out their dynamic the whole time. So it's him like trying to figure out how to take care of babies, and also they each have superpowers.
Ooh, you guys, I should watch Monsters vs. Aliens again and do that on the podcast. That's one. It's very underrated.
So
sorry,
random. No, it's fine. So this movie is zany, and I'm not going to tell really any more of the story from then on.
Yeah. Please don't, because I'm kind of intrigued.
Yeah, the thing is, it's like an interesting thing. It's kind of like that Pixar thing. It's like, okay, accept that this happens, and now movie from there on out. It was just such a weird. This is the only thing, is when the story starts, when the babies get there. He freaks out and he's like, no, this can't be happening. And he's incredulous, as anyone would be, that babies were suddenly in his house. But then the girl, like, she's like, where did these babies come from? Why didn't you tell me you were babysitting or something? He's like, no, they have superpowers. And there's some funny moments where the kids are showing the powers while her back is turned, but then she'll turn around, she doesn't see it and that kind of thing. But then she sees them finally, like right before she's about to leave, she sees them have the superpowers. And she realizes it's real, and it cuts to like so what's going on? And she's panicking. And the kid, Fearless, is very nonchalantly, and he's not like a superhero guy. He's just a teenage kid. So like, I don't want it to be like, well, his name's Fearless, so obviously everything's fine. It's like, no, he's just a kid. And so he immediately is like, here's what happened. I opened a portal to an alternate universe where these kids were in the video game and now they're in real life. And that's how he delivers the line. Mm-hmm. It's very straightforward. Like, I already understand exactly what happened and I'm okay with it. Now you need to get on board.
See everyone else here? Everyone else is fine.
We all understand. Get on this level with us. It is very cute.
Is it something the kids would like?
I think so. It's rated, if I remember correctly, it's rated Y7.
Which is a classic Rich pick.
Classic Rich pick. There are a couple of moments where there are these sort of monstery looking things, but they're also like, they never get the better of any of the heroes in this story. So, and the main bad guy looks kind of silly. He even reminds me of the guy from Monsters vs. Aliens. And there's like a government, there's a U.S. like general who reminds me a lot of the president as well. So there were so many things in this that just reminded me of Monsters vs. Aliens. But anyway.
Can I go back to mine just super fast?
Sure.
No, just you kind of reviewing it for our actual listeners made me think of 4 Up. Completely appropriate. Every second. However, because I was watching it with a 4-year-old and she asks many questions, you may have to answer some questions about infertility or miscarriage. Why is the lady crying? Are they not having a baby? This is the stuff Cora was asking me. Also, where's Ellie? What happened to Ellie? And then, explaining some
questions about mortality.
Yes. And for our particular 4-year-olds, that has come up a lot more lately. So she's starting to understand that. And she did get a little emotional about it. But then the movie kind of moves forward. So I just wanted to, in case nobody has seen Up, if you're sitting down with it with your kids that are paying attention to the actual storyline, you may have some questions at that very beginning of the movie. Sorry for that interruption.
No problem. So Fearless, I'll be honest, I watched this movie expecting to just make fun of it. And it turns out to be pretty cute. It's well animated. I don't know who makes it. It's not a big studio, I don't think. And I didn't look it up because who would do that?
Well, I mean, you're doing better. I mean, I actually looked stuff up and I felt like I was all over the place today.
No, you're great. You're always great. So, I actually recommend it if you are looking for just sort of it's not going to be memorable. It's probably not going to be anyone's favorite movie. Maybe it will. I mean, it's probably going to be someone's favorite movie, but it's not something I'm going to go.
Maybe little, video gamer.
Yeah, maybe
boys and girls out there that enjoy that sort of thing might enjoy it.
So, but it's good. It's worth a watch, and it takes some fun twists and turns, and it's called Fearless. It's on Netflix. And then the other thing that I watched both of these in the same night because... Is
this the night you were up for forever long?
No, this is the night you and Cora both fell asleep really early.
Which is almost every night.
I was able to watch 2 movies. So I watched Fearless, and then I watched The NeverEnding Story.
Which, to me, is like... Rich is like, ooh, whenever he sees it, he's like, ooh, The NeverEnding Story, we should watch that. And I'm like, no, boring.
So I haven't watched The NeverEnding Story in a long time, partly for the reasons you just heard.
Because I won't watch it with you?
Yeah.
I mean, I have to admit, it's a classic for so many people.
Yeah.
And I'm not...
Just not for you.
Just not for me.
That's fine.
I find it very boring.
Oh, here's what it is. I think that there are categories of certain kinds of movie that are like people's go-to thing. Mm-hmm. For some people, this falls under the what live action movie with like Muppets in it do you, and I'm talking about like fantasy movies. There's like Labyrinth and Dark Crystal and movies like that have live action and puppetry in it from the early to mid 80s. There's several of those kinds of movies.
Well, if you're asking me what my favorite puppet movie is, it's going to be the Muppet movie because that's not boring.
But that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Cora just walked into our room where we're recording and flopped on the bed unceremoniously.
We'll be done in just a second, babe. Okay.
So I watched NeverEnding Story. I was just going to say, for me, this is that movie. I don't love Labyrinth. I have a lot of people who just freaking love Labyrinth.
Seen it once. That's all I needed.
And it's not that I won't watch it, and I totally see the appeal. It's just not my movie.
David Bowie?
Yeah.
He's a very cool person.
Mommy, I want to talk about some stuff too.
Okay, how about at the end we do that, okay? Can you be quiet until I tell you that it's your turn? How about I come and get you when it's your turn, okay? Okay. Be there in just a second.
So, for me, it's NeverEnding Story.
Okay.
NeverEnding Story, in case you haven't seen it, is a very meta tale about basically about keeping imagination alive and continuing to sort of be creative, and it's very pro reading over which is ironic. It's very pro like reading over. The old guy in the shop says like, this isn't an arcade, we sell little rectangular things in here called books, you've never heard of them, kind of thing.
So read instead of playing video games, or like screen time.
Right.
Reading versus screen time for that time.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, in the 80s, and actually I just watched that High Score documentary series, which is about like the early days of video games.
Uh-huh.
And this was that time. Like, it's hard to imagine. So we were both born in the late 80s and didn't experience the 80s as children.
Right.
But what never occurred to me is that like in the very early 80s, from like 81 to 83, the world exploded with arcade cabinet games and video arcades.
Yeah.
Especially in the US. It was nuts.
And they didn't have the choice at that time that your screen could also be your reading.
Right, exactly. So it was like, what are you going to do after school? Are you going to go to the arcade? Not many people had in-home video games. So if you're going to play video games, you're playing an arcade, or you're going to go home and read a book.
Very Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but this kid, the main kid in the movie, loves reading, and he says, "No, I have 186 books at home." And the guy in the store is like, comic books. And he goes, "No, I've read Treasure Island and Lord of the Rings." And
oh man, this kid is me.
Yeah, he read like a million classics. And so the book that the guy's like, he sets it up and he's like, "Oh no, you can't read this very special book." And then the kid, whose name is Bastian, steals the book, and he leaves a note. He says, "Don't worry, I'll return your book." But he takes this book from the guy, and the book is called The NeverEnding Story.
Which the guy saying, "You can't read this book," was definitely reverse psychology, right?
Oh yeah, he looks through the window after the kid leaves, and he kind of smiles and nods. So yeah, he totally meant for him to take.
I just sent him on a harrowing adventure.
Right. So and then the
hope
story,
he doesn't die.
The story is very straightforward. The kid like goes to school. He gets to school late because bullies are picking on him.
Of course.
And then he's like, "Forget this. I'm not going to do school." He goes up into the attic of this school, which, by the way, is packed with stuff that would never be in a school. There's like a taxidermied wolf head nailed to a board that like falls out of the ceiling at one point and scares him. There's a real human skull sitting on a shelf in one corner, and it's a very scary attic that's designed to just be very scary.
That's like in a public school.
Right. It's just in a public school. There's not like in a real public school, if there was an attic, it would be full of books.
Maybe some sort of university needed some storage space.
I don't know. Also, the school looks like it might have been actually like
Hogwarts,
an asylum, because he looks in at one point through the window, like the window in the door, to see what's going on in the class he's supposed to be in, and it's a tiny slit. It's like a 1.5 inch by 4 inch slit that he kind of he gets on a chair and barely looks through. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is an asylum and not a school. But
they have those in schools.
With just that, with only that one little tiny
Yeah,
window?
dude. The school I worked at, the Mother's Day Out program, all those doors had that little slit just at the top of the door.
Whew. Anyway,
to look through. Yeah.
that's a lot. Anyway, so the book is very straightforward. There's a fantasy realm called Fantasia, and there is this evil darkness that's taking over the land that no one can see. It's called the Nothing. And only the magical Empress can save the land, but the Empress has fallen ill, and they call on the heroic skills of a young boy named Atreyu to find out how he can save the Empress. And so it's a big mission, a big quest for him. And so we follow him through the whole world, and he gets in a lot of scrapes, and he loses his trusty steed Artax in the swamp, and it's very emotional, and we go back and forth, and we keep seeing Bastian sort of on this trip with him and going through all this emotional toil with him as well. And the movie ends. I'm just gonna sum the whole thing up because I don't care at this point if you haven't seen it. It's a good movie and you should watch it, but this is how it ends. Atreyu finds out that all the Empress needs to become well is
love. Was the secret ingredient love?
Yeah, the love that was in her heart the whole time. No, it was a note written by her father that's on her desk at her house. No, it's she needs a new name. Someone has to give her a new name. And Atreyu goes, "Are you kidding? That's easy. Anyone could give her a new name." And the oracle that he learns this from says, "No, it can't be given by anyone in Fantasia. It has to be given by someone outside of Fantasia."
Bastian's that I'm here.
No, there's a moment where he's like we see him take a break every now and then, like a window will blow open because there's a storm happening, obviously, while he's doing all this
in real life,
because he stays like the night in this attic and reads the whole book in one day.
Right.
So he has this moment when he's closing the window. And he's thinking about it. He goes, "Man, I wish they could ask me because my mother had a beautiful name."
Oh.
And he wishes that he could give the name. And so they find out that
very soon,
we'll come get you.
I will come and get you in just a minute.
So Atreyu ends up going all the way back, and he makes his way back to the Empress. In this beautiful giant ivory tower, and he gets back and he has this conversation with her, and she's like this weirdly young but still somehow old looking little girl. Like not old, but like her face looks like a 20s or 30s year old face,
but she looks like she's like a child. 12.
No, she looks like she's like 5.
Oh, she's
little bitty. So she has Atreyu and the Empress have this conversation, and he's like, I wanted to find this earthling child that could give you, because the oracle says there's this child who can do it, who's not from Fantasia. He's like, I wanted to find him, but I couldn't leave Fantasia. Fantasia doesn't have a border. Mm-hmm. And the Empress says, no, you did bring him with you. You brought it. He's been with you the whole time. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about Bastian.
Right.
She says his name's Bastian. And Bastian goes, no, that can't be real. And we see the world kind of falling apart in Fantasia. And she's like, all he has to do is believe that he's part of this story. She even says at one point, she goes, we're just a part of a story that he's going along with. And he's part of it too. There are other people who are following him on his journey. And you realize you're in the movie.
Vroom, 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 vroom. It's like the Men in Black, where it's a marble and inside of a bag that the alien's using. Yeah.
No, exactly. So they say like we're part of his story and he's part of someone else's story. So like, and that's what they mean by it's a never-ending story.
Right.
And so she says, if he'll just believe it and say the name that he's already chosen, mm-hmm. if he just says it out loud, then he'll save Fantasia. And so they have this moment, and he calls out the name of his mom Which, if I remember right, this is...
Is it something like Janet or
no,
something?
This is something that... It was the most 80s answer to like in a fantasy movie.
Uh-huh.
He goes to the window and there's a big storm happening now in his world and also in Fantasia.
Uh-huh.
And he opens the window and he goes, he says something like, I'm gonna be a part of, no one can determine my reality or something like that. and then he calls out, I think I'm remembering this right. I had never noticed it before. I turned on the closed captioning because I didn't want to wake, there's a lot of loud music and a lot of loud sound effects for whatever reason on our TV for this movie. So I turned it down a little bit and I turned on the closed captioning. And I'm pretty sure I'm remembering this right. It was late by this point, but I believe he says Moonchild is the name of his mother. He calls out Moonchild.
There's no way. I'm looking it up.
Go ahead. I'm pretty sure. So Natalie's going to look up and see if I'm right. I'm pretty sure I am.
As soon as I start writing Bastions, it comes out Bastion's mom's name.
But, so he calls out the name. I'll go ahead and when you find it, let me know. But so from that moment on, he's in the story. And he has a face-to-face conversation with the Empress. About how Fantasia can start over and it's all going to begin with his wishes and his imagination. And so he goes, well, how many wishes do I have? She's like, as many as you want. And every time you make a wish, it's going to make the world better, which is something they bring back, I think, in NeverEnding Story 2. I think they switch it up and that's how the bad guy in NeverEnding Story 2 takes advantage of the kid. That's a whole other movie. Go ahead.
It's Moonchild.
Yeah.
In the book, it's Moonchild. But they say a lot of people are like, in the movie, he says it so oddly that nobody can really understand what he's saying in the movie. But in the book, it is Moonchild. I
think that's the thing. I think I've never watched it. I've never watched it with closed captioning, so I've never known what he said there, and it's not super important. Because
some people are even saying their closed captioning just leaves it blank.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Doesn't on Netflix. On Netflix, it tells you it's Moonchild. So, yeah. And, yeah, it's not really important what her name is. I just thought it was funny that was the name that he said his mom had.
Yeah.
Anyway, The NeverEnding Story is a great movie. It's very 80s. There's lots of puppetry in it.
Sure.
There's lots of little kids in weird situations in it. There's a dragon that looks like a dog in it. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot of fun. And I'm going to watch NeverEnding Story 2 now.
Okay.
I think there's even like a NeverEnding Story 3 that was maybe a straight to Disney. Like a Disney Channel type original movie almost. I may not do that one. But NeverEnding Story 2 is on Netflix as well.
Should I let Cora have a turn now?
Yes, Cora. I'm not sure how much of it I've left in, but Cora has been asking. Cora has been asking to contribute something to this episode.
After the edit. Cora, come here, baby. Coming. Okay, here we go. Let's see what happens here.
Okay, it's your turn. Your turn, Cora. What do you want to what do you want to say on the podcast? You have to talk into the microphone.
I'm going to speak out from Ryan.
You're going to talk about Ryan?
Okay, put your hands down.
I'm going to talk about Ryan.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
So he is this really big brother, and his sisters are Emma and Kate, and he calls them EK Doodles sometimes, because they are little too, and also they have two cats, and they...
What are their cats' names?
Mr. Scratchy and Pebbles, and also he's about the EK Doodle show. And he does so much different videos and so much different playing.
Yeah. Anything else?
and also he loves his sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they grow.
They do grow, don't they?
They get bigger.
Yeah, and also there's some videos about him, and I am watching the one while he gets that evil little stick, and it cannot show the person back to light up.
Okay.
Okay.
And also,
Stop touching the microphone, baby.
and sometimes there's videos about him when his daddy got one try on the crane
at the arcade.
the arcade machine, and he only did one try, and his mommy was so impressed. She was like so happy. Can I sit in a chair?
Are you done talking?
No, I'm sitting in a chair.
Nope, we're done now.
No, I want to move it over here and sit in your lap.
Well, can you only
Just
say
one more-
maybe like one more thing?
One more thing about Ryan, and
Because
then we got to
we
go.
gotta go.
There's a video about him making a huge storm, and his trampoline fell off.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And it was really scary, and the lights accidentally turned off.
Mm-hmm.
And he just wanted to use the laser.
Yeah.
And that's all I need to talk about.
Okay, so let's be quiet while Daddy's doing the last things, okay? And then you can say one more thing for me, okay?
No,
Stand right here.
all done.
Okay, stand right here.
But stay here because we want you to say one more thing at the end.
I want you to say one more thing. Stay right here and I'll tell you what to say, okay? Okay.
So this has been another episode of Not Suitable for Adults. As we mentioned at the beginning, you are welcome, and we would love for you to like and subscribe to our channel wherever you're at. And also leave reviews if you're able to leave reviews. Those are super helpful for us. If you have a show or a movie that you want us to watch, you can email us at notforadultscast@gmail.com or tweet at us at notforadultscast. And we will make sure to make a note of what you'd like us to see. There are already a couple of new... I see some mischief happening over there. There have already been some new recommendations that have come in recently, so we thank you all for that. And no matter what, like we said... Oh.
Thank you.
So no matter what's happening these days, we know that you have a lot of different places now that you can watch content. No matter what, even if you want to get outside for a little bit, just making sure you're doing that safely all the time. Just don't forget, no matter what you want to do, you are still the boss.
So watch whatever you want.
Say bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.